held its first debate over the weekend.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the status UN summit.
A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
Manufacturing renaissance. That's how South Korea's trade minister envisions the country's economic partnership with the United States following last week's new trade deal. Seoul and Washington in sync. South Korea and the United States signal that they're ready to resume talks with North Korea after rare remarks from Pyongyang hint it may be open to dialogue. Back to work. President Lee Jae-myung's summer break ends today. He has a packed schedule, including a whirlwind of diplomacy and domestic politics. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Friday evening. I'm Song Yoo-jin, filling in for Kim Da-mi. A week after returning from Washington with a hard-fought trade deal, South Korea's top trade negotiator laid out his vision today for the country's economic cooperation with the United States and his take on the deal he helped to secure. Our economics correspondent Park Junan has our top story tonight.
Trade Minister Yo Han-gu addressed the strong economic partnership with the U.S. on Friday, highlighting the concept of a manufacturing renaissance.
I think the U.S., Korea and the U.S. are really indispensable and really inevitable and indispensable and key partners. I think that is the manufacturing renaissance partnership is actually what Korea can offer to really help U.S. rebuild the U.S. manufacturing, especially in the shipbuilding and semiconductor batteries and bio, pharma, etc.
Yo's comment at the American Chamber of Commerce in Korea came less than 10 days after Seoul and Washington agreed to lower U.S. reciprocal tariffs from 25% to 15%. While the trade minister expressed regret over tariffs that were once 0% on each side, he acknowledged that the U.S. trade and global trade environment has changed over time.
And I think we need to adjust to this new environment. In that sense, I think this trade deal really help kind of lift some of the uncertainty. The U.S. promised the no worse treatment than any other country, meaning kind of most favored nations tariff level. So I think we kind of achieve some level of stability and certainty under this extremely volatile kind of trade environment.
At the roundtable, AmCham Chairman and CEO James Kim brought the idea of helping to bridge businesses between South Korea and the U.S.
We're also committed to working with you, Mr. Trade Minister, to come up with viable solutions pertaining to non-tariff barriers and sectoral tariffs. We want to continue to serve as a bridge between U.S. and Korea, both in the public sector and also in the private sector.
Meanwhile, Minister Yeo announced the launch of a dedicated U.S. help desk to better understand and respond to the concerns of American companies. He reiterated the government's commitment to enhancing regulatory predictability and providing strong support for foreign invested enterprises operating in Korea. Park Junan, Arirang News.
And staying with the Trump administration's trade war, a sign of hope for semiconductor giants. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says companies that commit to building factories in the United States during President Trump's term will be spared from tariffs. So what does that mean for South Korea's tech powerhouses? Lee Seung-jae might have an answer to that.
Semiconductor companies that commit to building chip facilities in the United States during U.S. President Donald Trump's term could be exempt from a proposed 100% tariff on chip imports. Speaking to Fox Business on Thursday, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick clarified that firms must file that commitment with the Commerce Department and be audited throughout the construction process to qualify for the tariff exemption. The comments come as Trump announced his latest sweeping tariff plan on Wednesday, where he said Washington would impose around 100% tariff on semiconductor imports. He cited national security concerns under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, while hinting at broader sector-specific tariffs to be announced in the coming week. The announcement has drawn close attention from South Korean tech giants Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. South Korea's top trade envoy Yeo Han-gu said Thursday that both companies would avoid the full 100% tariff under the current Seoul-Washington trade deal, adding that South Korea would receive the most favorable chip tariff rates of any country. This is because Samsung has already invested in 2 fabrication plants in Texas, while SK Hynix plans to open an advanced chip packaging and AI R&D facility in Indiana. However, there are doubts whether SK Hynix's packaging plant alone would fully qualify for tariff exemptions, while Samsung, on the other hand, could benefit from not only the 2 fabrication plants, but also news that it has joined Apple's supply chain. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
However, trade isn't the only point of common ground between Seoul and Washington. Reviving talks with North Korea also seems to be high on the list. A U.S. State Department official says Washington is watching closely after rare remarks from Pyongyang hinting at a possible return to the table. Seoul today welcomed the idea. Our Woo Soo-young reports.
Seoul and Washington have again expressed their wish to revive top-level dialogue between the United States and North Korea. On Friday, South Korea's Ministry of Unification said Seoul has on a number of occasions revealed its active support for resuming symmetry between Washington and Pyongyang.
South Korea and the U.S. share the position that they are open to dialogue with North Korea to seek peace on the Korean peninsula and resolve the North Korean nuclear issue.
The official added that peace on the Korean peninsula and inter-Korean relations are being discussed in preparation for the meeting of Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump this month. Various related agencies are closely coordinating on the matter, she said, saying further details cannot be revealed at this time. This comes after a U.S. official on Thursday said Washington is noting with interest a recent remark by North Korea hinting it may be open to dialogue. The U.S. State Department's Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for East Asian Affairs, Seth Bailey, referenced last week's statement made by Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Kim Yo-jong had said the relationship between the U.S. and North Korean leaders is not bad and called for a new approach by Washington, saying Pyongyang's nuclear capabilities and the geopolitical reality had changed since Donald Trump's first term. But she flatly rejected the idea of denuclearization, included in the 2018 statement following then-President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un's first summit in Singapore. The 2 leaders had agreed to work towards denuclearization and to build new bilateral relations. Bailey said that the second Trump administration is still committed to the statement's principles and that the US leader has clearly shown his willingness to engage in negotiations. Washington, however, remains committed to North Korea's denuclearization through its alliance with South Korea to counter security challenges in Northeast Asia. President Trump in his first term met with Kim Jong-un on 3 occasions. While the first Singapore summit offered hope for a breakthrough deal on North Korea's denuclearization and economic development, disagreements over the scope of dismantling nukes led to the breakdown of their summit in Hanoi. A meeting at the inter-Korean border in 2019 was brief and saw no outcome. South Korea's new Lee Jae-myung administration has expressed its support for the resumption of Trump-Kim talks, as well as inter-Korean diplomacy. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, back here at home, President Lee Jae-myung wraps up its 5-day summer break today. Waiting for him is a packed calendar, including summits with global leaders, as well as key domestic decisions. Our presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min has a preview.
The president will have a lot on his plate when he returns to work from his week-long vacation. First off, he is set to host Vietnam's political leader To Lam on Monday, the first foreign leader to be hosted by President Lee Jae-myung. Their focus is on partnership in key areas at a time when global trade uncertainty grows.
On top of politics, security, trade, and investment, the leaders will discuss strategically important areas in depth, including nuclear energy, high-speed railways, and smart cities, as well as science technology and human resources.
Then will come the first E-Trump summit in Washington, likely slated for August 25th, according to diplomatic sources. A framework trade deal has been reached between Seoul and Washington, with the U.S. tough on tariffs, but it's not a done deal. The two sides still need to work on the details, such as the quarantine process for fruit and vegetables imported from the U.S. Security issues could be also on the table, such as upping South Korea's defense spending and a possible change to the role and scale of U.S. troops stationed in Korea, as Washington focuses on countering China's influence. Here at home, Lee's official schedule includes the People's Appointment Ceremony, as named by the top office, on August 15th at Gwanghwamun Square, when the nation celebrates the 80th anniversary of its liberation from Japan's colonial rule. It'll act as the official inauguration ceremony for the president who took office in June, right after the election and without a formal inauguration ceremony, given that it was a snap election.
At this event, the people will be declared as the owner of the country, and a pledge will be made to develop the Republic of Korea as a leading nation by upholding the sovereign will of the people.
Invited are former presidents and first ladies, both conservatives and liberals alike, and people from all walks of life. Also, appointments of key posts will likely pick up speed to fill the remainder of the cabinet seats, as well as ambassadorial posts to the U.S., Japan, China, and Russia that are currently vacant. On top of the nominations, speculation is rife that Lee will confirm the first round of presidential pardons during next week's cabinet meeting for the Liberation Day that could spark some political repercussions. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, turning to major developments in the Middle East, Israel's top office announced that it's planning to go forth with a plan to occupy Gaza City, a move that's raising fears of a further escalation in an already devastating war. Kim Do-yeon reports.
Israel's political security cabinet has approved a plan to occupy Gaza City, the largest city in the enclave, early Friday, signaling a significant escalation in the near two-year conflict, despite intensifying international and domestic criticism. A statement from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office on social media read, quote, "The IDF will prepare to take control of Gaza City while providing humanitarian aid to the civilian population outside the combat zones, detailing the following principles for ending the war. Disarmament of Hamas, return of all hostages, both living and dead, demilitarization of the Gaza Strip, Israel's security control over the Gaza Strip, the existence of an alternative civilian government that is not Hamas or Palestinian Authority. Netanyahu's office also noted that most political security cabinet members believed an alternative plan would not achieve the defeat of Hamas or the return of hostages. However, government sources indicate that the security cabinet's decision still requires full approval from the full cabinet, a session not expected until Sunday. The cabinet's approval came just hours after Netanyahu said Israel intended to assume full military control of the entire strip.
In order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance that is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel. That's what we want to do. We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas.
As the cabinet votes, mass protests erupted across Israel. According to Israel, it already controls around 75% of Gaza. Most of Gaza's population of about 2 million has been displaced multiple times over the past 22 months, and aid groups are warning that the enclave's residents are on the verge of famine. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, shifting focus, South Korea is exactly 1 week away from the 80th anniversary of its liberation from Japan's colonial rule. So tonight, we put the spotlight on a lesser-known but pivotal figure in the fight for freedom. Sang-ryong tells the story of the late Sang-ryong.
This year marks the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. To commemorate, a special exhibition is underway to spotlight the life and legacy of Sang-ryong, one of the leaders of the Provisional Government of the Republic of Korea. Titled Prime Minister Sang-ryong and Im Cheong-gak, the exhibit also celebrates 100 years since its inauguration. After Japan's annexation of Korea in 1910, Lee gave up his fortune and relocated to Manchuria, China, with his entire family to escape colonial oppression and lay the foundations for armed resistance.
He focused on unifying the fragmented independence movement groups and also established the Shinung Military Academy, where he aimed to provide proper historical education to the cadets by writing the Daedong history and teaching them accurate accounts of Korea's past.
But Lee's story cannot be told without Im Cheong-gak, his ancestral home in Andong City. Im Cheong-gak is a 500-year-old hanok, or traditional Korean house, and one of the largest preserved residences from the Joseon dynasty. The home also produced no fewer than 10 recognized independence activists, including Lee's brothers, son, grandchildren, nephews, and even his uncle.
Im Cheong-gak is a historic site that shows how the sacrifices made for the nation will ultimately be honored and protected by the nation itself. Though it was damaged due to its role in the independence movement, the government is now fully committed to restoring it.
Sang-ryong was not only an independence fighter, but also a literary figure. Through essays, letters, and manifestos, he chronicled Korea's suffering and yearning for independence. These handwritten records in the exhibition are being featured as works of calligraphy.
A gifted poet and writer, Lee's literary contributions have been brought to light by the brushwork of master calligrapher Lee Dong-ik.
This exhibition was created to give visitors a chance to engage with the Seokju-yugu, a collection of Sang-ryong's writings. It's especially meaningful because it also features calligraphy works that reflect his passion and sacrifice for Korea's independence.
The exhibition can be enjoyed for free at the Seoul Museum of History until August 31st. Sang-ryong, Arirang News.
In the world of K-pop, Stray Kids has claimed the top spot in France, setting another record on the international pop stage. According to Billboard France, the 8-member K-pop boy band is ranked first on the list of top 10 most streamed K-pop groups in France so far in 2025. The outlet also highlighted that the group sold out 2 shows at the Stade de France in July, which is the largest stadium in the country. It's Friday, which means it's time for arts and culture. We have our new culture correspondent Park Konu in the studio. Welcome, Konu.
Great to be here, Hyojin.
Great to have you as well. So, Konu, what do you have for your very first arts and culture segment?
Yes, for my very first, this time I visited Jeonju in Jeollabuk-do province, which is about like a 3-hour drive south of Seoul. And this place is holding a K-pop camp right now, and it's bringing in aspiring K-pop rookies from all over the world. It's part of a pilot program ahead of the planned establishment of this dedicated K-pop international school in Jeollabuk-do province. And on site, I witnessed just how devoted these trainees are to K-pop, perhaps fueled in part by the recent global hit animation film K-pop Demon Hunters. But before I tell you more, let's first go to the site where this is all happening. Letitia in your area? 21-year-old Letitia from Brazil traveled halfway across the globe to Korea with one goal: to succeed in K-pop. Not even a scorching summer heat can stop her from practicing hard every day.
Well, the most exciting part is to be like such a great team and to learn from people like in another different country. In K-pop, they mix up a lot of styles. And you need to really know the basis to really do well. And that's really hard because you need to be focused. And K-pop 학교 입학하고 싶어요. 진짜로 너무요.
Participants from around the world have gathered here in Jeonju, drawn by their passion for K-pop and chasing one big dream: to become part of the K-pop scene. So let's go see how hard these guys have been working to make that dream come true. 5, 6, 7, 8. For 2 weeks, about 20 girls from 10 different countries, including India and Kazakhstan, have been training for hours daily, perfecting K-pop songs and choreography as part of a pilot program before the launch of an official K-pop school. For every move and facial expression, practice, practice, and more practice. During the day, Korean vocal practice also echoes around the practice room, with voices blending into one harmonious sound despite the different nationalities. And though Korean isn't their mother tongue, they keep practicing tirelessly to improve. But it's not always easy, as sometimes they struggle after facing challenges.
It's a lot of pressure. I think there's the desire to be constantly perfect. I'm hoping that I can meet the standards of both myself and the people that I want to perform for. So it's been hard, and I'm not used to dancing like 8 hours a day. It's something that I still want to pursue and continue.
When the pressure builds, teachers are there with them. Detailed feedback follows each performance, and the trainees work hard to apply it, boosting their skills and confidence.
Lots of them didn't even know how to sing at first, but their love for K-pop makes them absorb everything so quickly. If they get systematic training, I'm sure they'll be good enough to achieve their dreams.
After beating 28-1 odds to get here, these aspiring K-pop demon hunters are now preparing for their debut showcase next week, the moment they'll fight to secure the Honmun.
Wow, sounds like a great program. So, Konu, for our viewers, please tell us a bit more about this special camp.
Of course, so even though this is the first pilot program, the popularity was quite strong. Around 560 people from 50 different countries registered to apply for this program, but only 20 were selected after tons of interviews and tests. Building on this popularity, Jeonbuk plans to hold the camp several times more in the future, with sessions possibly open to boys as well. And the camp is free of charge, as participants only pay for their flights, giving them flexibility to manage their schedules and explore Korea during their visit. The curriculum includes vocal and dance lessons from professional mentors with real-time interpretation for smooth communication. Trainees also attend a special lecture by a popular K-pop artist, this time Jeonjin from 4 Minute. Beyond daily practice, they get to perform at local festivals for a real stage experience and are set to release a debut track to be revealed at the showcase next week.
Right, so this all sounds like a very successful step ahead of the K-pop schools opening. So when can we expect that? Any details?
So officials say this will be Korea's first ever K-pop international school in Jeonbuk province, with hopes to open within 5 years. The idea is to welcome students from around the world to the hometown of K-pop. And the school is legally permitted under the Jeonbuk Special Act, so it's planned to cover grades from elementary through high school, offering not only K-pop, but also general subjects taught at regular schools. And officials say there's a special reason Jeollabuk-do was chosen as a site for the school.
Jeollabuk-do is home to Korea's traditional culture, including pansori music, which we can call one of the roots of K-pop. It also has many heritage sites, making it an ideal place to naturally connect with and experience Korean culture.
He added that unlike private academies, which only teach singing and dancing, this will be a proper school with a professional curriculum, while collaborating with major entertainment agencies to provide hands-on experience. However, some concerns have been raised about accessibility.
Unlike Seoul, our province may have some geographical disadvantages. But with the planned triport project in Saemangum, including an international airport and seaport, we hope it will become a proud destination where anyone can come and fully experience the essence of K-culture.
Yeah, so it seems like those concerns are not concerns for now.
All right, Konu, thanks for that. And I guess we'll see you every Friday.
All right, thank you.
Heat wave advisories are in effect throughout the south and on Jeju Island. Today's daytime temperature rose to 32 degrees in Seoul and 33 degrees in Daegu, which was as hot as yesterday. There will be heavy rain again on the weekend. The rain will start at dawn tomorrow on the coastal areas of Jeollanam-do province and Jeju Island and spread to other southern areas between morning and afternoon. From the night onward, the rain will also begin in the Chungcheong-do provinces. In particular, between tomorrow afternoon and the dawn Sunday, there will be 30 to 50 millimeters per hour of heavy rain, mainly in the south. Tomorrow, Seoul and Busan will start off at 25 degrees, Chuncheon and Gyeongju at 22 degrees. Daily highs move up to around 29 to 31 degrees across the country. Record rain is forecast next week. Please be prepared in advance. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for this Friday. I'm Songyujin, filling in for Kim Dami. For all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and hope you have a great weekend.
Korea Right.
안녕하세요. 방크에서 활동하는 박지은 연구원입니다. 한글은 600년의 역사를 가진 우리나라 고유의 문자인데요. 한글에 대해 잘 모르는 분도 많고 또 잘못된 정보를 접한 분도 꽤 있더라고요. 사이버 외교사절 딴 방크의 일원으로서 제가 한글에 대한 올바른 정보를 전달해 드릴게요. 한글은 조선 4대 왕인 세종대왕이 1443년에 창제한 글자예요. 한글은 자음과 모음으로 구성되어 있는데요. 자음은 입술, 이, 목구멍과 같이 발음 기관의 모양이나 그 움직임을 본떠 만들었고요. 모음은 하늘, 땅, 사람을 본떠 만들었답니다. 한글의 창제 원리와 사용법을 써놓은 훈민정음 해례본은 1962년 대한민국 국보로 지정되었고 1997년 유네스코 세계기록유산으로 등재되었습니다. 창적이고 과학적이며 아름다운 문자인 한글, 한국인의 위대한 문화유산입니다. 한국 바로 알리기. 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 에이펙은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 에이펙 2025로 이어집니다.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. The ASEAN turns 58 today, but the region is no longer just a ceremonial partner in Korean diplomacy. It's now a frontline player in the shifting power dynamics of the Indo-Pacific. As U.S.-China tensions deepen, the ASEAN is pushing to assert its strategic autonomy, and South Korea is moving fast to align with that goal. Under President Lee Jae-myung, Seoul is signaling a pivot from idealistic slogans to hard-nosed, pragmatic engagement. With high-level envoy visits, renewed policy frameworks, and back-to-back summits with key leaders, South Korea's ASEAN strategy is being put to the test, and the stakes have never been higher. For a deeper discussion on this, we connect to Professor Park Chang-sik, Director of the Institute of ASEAN Studies at Donga University. A big welcome, Professor.
Yeah. Good evening. My pleasure to be here.
Good to see you. Now, also joining us is James Chin, Professor of Asian Studies at the University of Tasmania. Good to see you, Professor Chin.
Good evening.
Okay, now let's start our discussion with Professor Park. So today, yes, ASEAN now marks its 58th anniversary. Professor, could you explain for us the strategic and economic importance of the ASEAN for South Korea's diplomacy, and also how do you see its status evolving recently?
Yeah, over the past decades, ASEAN has emerged not only as key economic partner for South Korea, but also as a vital player in the broader Indo-Pacific strategic framework. First of all, when you think of economic and strategic significance of ASEAN in South Korea's foreign policy, ASEAN is South Korea's second largest trading partner and third largest investment destination. I think these two facts sufficiently reflect the real nature of the economic relationship between South Korea and ASEAN. In 2023, trade between South Korea and ASEAN surpassed $200 billion, underscoring the depth of economic ties. I'm sure ASEAN will be the greatest partner in the trade of Korea within 10 years. And secondly, for the recent changes in ASEAN's standing or influence leverage, ASEAN has struggled to present a unified stance on key issues, especially concerning Myanmar's military coup, China's assertiveness in the South China Sea, and U.S.-China rivalry. Most recently, a border clash between Thailand and Cambodia has raised the concern about crisis in ASEAN unity, but the issue is expected to be resolved soon. So finally, the recent elevation of ASEAN-Korea ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership reflects Korea's long-term commitment to the region, I believe.
So that really underscores how ASEAN is no longer just a regional bloc, but also a core part of Korea's strategic map as well. Now, building on this, the ASEAN has long pursued strategic autonomy by maintaining a balanced approach without leaning toward any one major power. But amid intensifying U.S.-China tensions, we want to ask Professor Chin, what is the importance of cooperation with South Korea in helping the ASEAN secure its strategic autonomy?
Thank you for that really important question. So I think in terms of strategic autonomy, I think the key word here is ASEAN centrality. ASEAN understands that it's really, really important to keep the Southeast Asia region very stable and predictable for many, many reasons. But the very clear reason why ASEAN has to be the center of all these diplomatic efforts is simply because a lot of the world's energy supply pass through the South China Sea and the Straits of Malacca. So if anything were to happen to Southeast Asia, that will affect the rest of the world. And I think South Korea understand this. For example, South Korea new Southern policy is really about South Korea supporting ASEAN's centrality and helping ASEAN to maintain regional stability. And I think for the ASEAN side, I think they value the contribution of South Korea. In many ways, South Korea have lots of things that are similar with ASEAN. Both are what we call middle power countries. So they can come together and help each other. So I think the reality is that ASEAN, as the previous speaker has spoken, they do not really want to take a side between this rivalry between the US and China. They're just trying to make sure that the region is stable and is open for everybody.
Of course. Like our Professor Chin has mentioned about the new Southern policy, the current Lee Jae-myung administration is expected to upgrade that policy of the former Moon Jae-in administration into a more so-called pragmatic direction. So in this case, Professor Park, what should be the top priorities for improvement or reinforcement in the Lee administration's ASEAN policy?
Yeah, but to transfer from a goodwill-based approach under Moon government, actually I participated in the program to a more pragmatic, strategic, and future-oriented ASEAN policy. The new Lee Jae-myung administration should focus on security engagement, digital green cooperation, resilient supply chains, and especially I'd like to stress on this, human connectivity. These areas will define the next phase of Korea-ASEAN relations, especially as Southeast Asia becomes more critical to the regional order and global economic flows. Among them, I'd like to emphasize the fields of human connectivity and public democracy. People-to-people ties have lagged behind economic ties. Korea's soft power, including Korean wave, is very, very strong, as we well know. But mutual understanding remains shallow. And so 3 policies are recommended. So first, expand the education, scholarship, and youth exchange programs, and increase ASEAN cultural centers in Korea, vice versa, improve language education and intercultural competence, and finally support migrant worker and student communities from ASEAN in Korea to promote a more inclusive and sustainable bilateral relationship.
Well, that would be a very good direction moving forward. Now, let's turn a little bit to recent diplomacy. South Korea has been dispatching presidential envoys to the ASEAN region. And most recently, on July 23rd, I believe, President Lee's envoy made an official visit to Malaysia, which was the first special such visit sent to an ASEAN country since Lee took office. So, Professor Chin, what diplomatic message do you think was conveyed by choosing Malaysia as the first destination?
So I think the destination of Malaysia is in many ways a very logical way of approaching this issue. As many of your viewers know, Malaysia is the chair of ASEAN this year. And the South Koreans are basically sending a very strong signal. They're hoping to work with the Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to elevate the relationship, not only between Malaysia and South Korea, but Malaysia is chair of ASEAN to elevate the relationship between ASEAN and South Korea. I think it's also very important to note that Malaysia is probably South Korea's 10th largest trade partner. They were doing trade in the region of almost 20 billion, and everybody expects this to go after the conclusion of the FTA agreement, which is will probably be finalized this year. I think both leaders are looking for new ways to elevate the trade relationship, and they're talking about things like the digital economy, the green economy, and as mentioned already, the supply chain issues. I think the South Korean president also wanted to assure ASEAN that South Korea recognizes ASEAN's centrality. And he also was trying to promote more people-to-people links between South Korea and the ASEAN countries.
Right. So choosing Malaysia, the host nation, wasn't just symbolic. There was clear intention behind that choice. A lot to look forward between the two countries moving forward. Now, following the presidential envoy's visit to Vietnam on July 29th, Vietnam's top-ranking official, To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party, is set to visit South Korea on August 10th. Professor Park, what diplomatic symbolism and strategic significance does To Lam's visit to Korea hold?
Yeah, simply saying, the Secretary General of Communist Party in Vietnam is the #1 leader, is the most powerful figure in Vietnam's political system. So ranking the president and prime minister, as we all know that. As far as I know, this is the first visit to South Korea by Vietnam's de facto top leader, Secretary General To Lam. The visit of To Lam means the highest level of political recognition and trust in the bilateral relationship. Vietnam places a strong emphasis on political party-to-party diplomacy. And he's the Secretary General means the Communist Party. He represents the Communist Party, the most important political party. So I say this diplomacy, party-to-party diplomacy. And this visit symbolizes ideological legitimacy and mutual respect, which is rare in Vietnam relations with the non-communist countries.
Right. So it's definitely a very important and significant visit by this Vietnamese de facto top leader. Now, as part of his visit, of course, we are expecting a summit with President Lee Jae-myung on August 11th. Professor Park, what do you think could be the key agenda items for talks between the two sides?
Yeah, at the August 11th summit between President Lee and General Secretary To Lam, the leaders are expected to focus on strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership established in 2022. A top priority of ASEAN will be expanding bilateral trade and investment, first of all, especially in high-tech sectors such as semiconductors, electric vehicles, and digital industries. And the two sides are also likely to discuss deepening cooperation in defense and security, including defense industry, collaboration, and maritime stability. Vietnam has shown a strong interest in Korea's advanced defense system, including K2 battle tank, K9 howitzer, Chonmu missile system, and then finally AF-20 fighter jet also. Supplying Korean-made weapons to ASEAN countries like Vietnam, which perceives a growing security threat from China due to the problems of South China Sea, could significantly contribute to strengthening bilateral relations in a strategic direction. Such a cooperation will not only expand Korea's defense exports, but also help build a more stable regional security network. Of course, this is not something that can be pursued unilaterally by Korea alone. And finally, human resource development, including education exchange and vocational training, may also be emphasized. That they are expected to explore ways to improve conditions for Vietnamese workers and residents in Korea. The summit seems to recognize again mutual trust and long-term strategic alignment.
Right. So we will be definitely watching closely to see if the summit could bring some tangible results, either on security issues or digital areas, or even human resource areas as well. So as the U.S.-China rivalry intensifies, Vietnam continues to pursue balanced diplomacy. In this context, Professor Chin, what diplomatic impact could a stronger cooperation between South Korea and Vietnam actually bring?
So I think it will bring a lot of benefit for both countries. Both countries are middle powers. And I think the Vietnamese really like the idea, they're pursuing this idea called bamboo diplomacy. So they're trying to make as many friends as possible. As you mentioned earlier, Vietnam and China are actually both claimants to several islands in the South China Sea. But I think it's also very important to point out that South Korea is actually Vietnam's largest foreign investor, something in the region of US $90 billion. So Vietnam is really looking towards South Korea for really high technology transfers and to build up its network, especially the 5G network. I think the Vietnamese are a big hesitant when it comes to Chinese products. So they're hoping that South Korea can produce these products, especially in 5G. But I think at the end of the day, the Vietnamese understand that because of this competition with China, they need as many friends as possible. So it's really a way of counterbalancing the US-China influence in the South China Sea and in the region generally.
Now, Professor Chin, let's move on to the broader landscape. So in order to strengthen South Korea's presence, there are growing calls to enhance cultural, educational, and people-to-people exchanges like we've been talking about across the ASEAN. What kind of policy mechanisms or agreements do you think must be actually prioritized at this point?
So I think there's a lot of things that South Korea and ASEAN can do. As the other speaker has spoken, the key to it is really people-to-people interaction. So we're talking about things like global Korea scholarships. You can actually bring a lot more students from ASEAN into South Korean institutions. You can do things like the Korean exchange, ASEAN education exchange program. You can bring faculty exchange. You can do joint research project. And of course, one of the things which ASEAN is really bad is that the university sector, especially in countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, all this, they can really learn a lot from Korean universities, especially Korean science and technology universities, which is really world class. So I think there are lots of opportunities there. The trick is really for Korea to push for this. Especially people-to-people exchange, but also in the culture areas. As you know, Korean culture, especially K-pop, is really, really popular in Southeast Asia. So there are many avenues for things like films, music, and digital content. So there are actually a lot of opportunities, and several Korean brands are very well known in the region as well. Samsung mobile phones are really well known. Generally, the people of ASEAN regard South Korea as a very high-tech country. They want to really learn from South Korea. But the problem is that the South Korean government has not been very active in pursuing a lot of these exchange programs. They actually have a lot of MOUs signed, but somehow they're sort of paper MOUs. They haven't really been implemented yet. So it's really, the onus is really up to South Korea to really put resources behind all these programs and push for people-to-people interaction, because that's really the key relationship over the long term. That's how you build friendly relations over the long term.
Right. So let's hope this opportunity could boost such kind of efforts moving forward. Now, before we let you go, Professor Park, briefly, just as we're looking ahead to October, the upcoming ASEAN +3 summit to be held in Malaysia is expected to be a first major test of the Lee administration's diplomacy. What kind of strategies are actually needed at this point?
Yes, really, the last government, so they stopped any kind of a special policy on ASEAN. So this time we have to show something very special and pragmatic one. First of all, I think the new policy toward ASEAN is expected to be announced before next week's National Liberation Day of Korea, August 15th, before that. And along with that, there will likely be some actionable items that can be implemented immediately. So, but here I'd like to mention a couple of things that should be included in that policy. First, So I'd like to say three things. First, we should declare this support ASEAN centrality as the foundation of regional peace, prosperity, and multilateral cooperation. Secondly, South Korea will be ASEAN plus 3's partner of choice in digital transformation and green economy. And finally, as responsible middle power, as Professor Chin indicated before, Korea offers balanced, constructive solutions to regional challenges. Yeah, that's it.
All right. That will be the real stage to see if all these moves actually translate into regional credibility with all the answers that you've mentioned. But as for now, we'll have to conclude our discussion here at this point. Thank you so much for your insights tonight, Professor Park and Professor Chin. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered as a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic.